My name is Layla Romanova. I was once the principal dancer of the New York Ballet. My name appeared on the playbills at Lincoln Center. My photo hung on the honor wall backstage, and my toes have touched every inch of the stage in Swan Lake. I thought I would dance until I was 40, then step gracefully behind the scenes as a ballet teacher. But fate didn't give me that chance. During a rehearsal of Giselle, I felt a sharp pain in my ankle and collapsed on stage. The doctor's diagnosis: torn ligaments, accompanied by unexplained muscle atrophy. They said it might be the result of long-term high-intensity training, or possibly a side effect of some medication. I didn't care at the time. My boyfriend, Victor Greve, the youngest private equity partner in Manhattan, had me admitted to his private sanitarium immediately. He said it had the best therapists, the most advanced equipment, and the quietest environment in all of New York.
Layla, you don't have to think about anything. Just focus on recovering. I'll be with you always.
I believed him. Like a bird with a broken wing, I was gently picked up and placed in a gilded cage. The sanitarium was in a manor house in the Hudson Valley, surrounded by barbed wire fences and guarded at the gate. I thought it was to protect my privacy since I was a public figure. Later, I learned the wall wasn't to keep the paparazzi out, it was to keep me in. Victor visited me once a week, bringing a bouquet of white roses each time, sitting by my bed and asking after my health. He told the nurses to take good care of me, the doctors to use the best medicine, and the therapist to get me back on my feet as soon as newly. Everyone thought he was the perfect boyfriend, but his perfection, just like the perfection in my last relationship, began to feel wrong. My therapist was a quiet woman, around 30. Slender, with almost no expression on her face. Her name tag read Kayla Mendez, physical therapist. She showed up in my room on time every day, pushed me through rehabilitation exercises, never small-talked, never smiled, and never ate lunch with the other nurses. At first, I thought she was strange. Aren't therapists supposed to be sunny and always saying, "You can do it"? Kayla was not. When she stretched my ankle, her strength was so great that it brought tears to my eyes, but she never apologized. She would only ease up a little when I said, "It hurts," then continue. "Were you in the military?" 3 more sets. But one thing caught my attention. Every time Victor came to visit, Kayla disappeared. Not by accident, every single time. Like an alert cat, she hid in the treatment room at the sound of his footsteps, and only came out once his car was through the gate. Why isn't Kayla here? Kayla doesn't like dealing with relatives, but her eyes betrayed her. In front of Victor, her look was not disgust, it was fear. I began secretly recording my medication at night. The pills Victor gave me, 2 a day, were supposed to protect my muscles and prevent atrophy. One day, while the nurse was changing shifts, I hid 1 pill and asked a volunteer friend to have it tested. The results showed the drug contained a rare cholesterol steroid that caused muscle atrophy and osteoporosis with long-term use. This was not treatment. It was accelerated destruction. I leaned against the bed, clutching the lab report, my nails digging into my palm. The Hudson Valley sunset was beautiful outside the window, but I felt cold. Not cold in my body, cold in my heart. I dialed my lawyer's number, but hung up once it connected, because I wasn't sure if the phones in the sanatorium were bugged. I needed help. Someone I could trust. I looked around and my eyes fell at the rehabilitation log in the corner, signed Kayla Mendez. I decided to start with Kayla, not by asking if she'd help me, but by first figuring out who she was. I searched all the sanitarium's public files and found Kayla's employment record. Education: Master's in Rehabilitation Medicine, Columbia University. Work experience: 3 years at another private rehabilitation center. Reference: none. In her photo, she was younger but still unsmiling. Her pupils were dark brown, just like mine. One day after therapy, I said casually, "Your eyes are the same color as mine." Her hands paused as she packed up the equipment, then she continued. "My mother's were also dark brown," I went on. "But she's gone." Kayla didn't reply. She rolled up the resistance band, put it in the cabinet, and turned to leave. I said one sentence behind her. "Have you ever heard the name Natalia?" She stopped. The doorknob stayed in her hand for a long time. She didn't turn around, but her shoulders trembled slightly. That night, Kayla knocked on my door. She stood in the doorway, didn't come in, just slipped an envelope into my hand and turned away. Inside was a photo, with a line written on the back. This was taken the day I was given away at age 5. She didn't know I took this with me. On the front was a little girl with tears on her face, and behind her stood a young woman. That young woman was my mother. I looked at the photo over and over, then pressed it to my chest and cried. The next day when Kayla came for therapy, I didn't mention the photo, and neither did she. But when she stretched my ankle, her touch was gentler. When I hurt, she no longer said 3 more sets. Instead, she said, "Endure it, it'll be over soon. Just bear with it, it'll be over soon." That was the first time I heard her say endure instead of persist. Endure and persist are not the same. Endure means she knows you're in pain. Persist means she doesn't care if you're in pain. I suddenly thought this quiet woman might be the last family I had in the world. In the days that followed, I asked Kayla about her past indirectly. She told me she was sent to a foster home by her mother when she was little, then moved between foster families, and put herself through college at 18. She spoke without expression, like reading a report. "Do you hate her?" I did. Then I learned she didn't abandon me, she couldn't afford to keep me. My father was an alcoholic who beat her and beat me. She sent me away to let me survive. She wanted to see me one last time before she died, but by the time I got the message, she was already buried. I took her hand. Her hands were rough, with prominent knuckles, marks from years of physical labor. Mine had once been a dancer's hands, but now they were pale and soft from lying in bed for so long. When we held each other, it was like two people from different worlds meeting. "She's our mother. Do you know that?" For the first time, Kayla looked directly into my eyes. Tears glistened in those dark brown eyes, just like mine. "I know, I knew the first day I saw you. You look like her. I applied for this job just to meet you. I wanted to see what life was like for the daughter she kept and raised. Now I know. You're not doing well either. A little better than you, at least I knew her and lived with her for 15 years. Therapy's over for today. Same time tomorrow. Layla, I'll get you out of here." From that day on, Kayla and I began a secret plan. She came to my room every day for therapy, door closed, curtains drawn. We sat facing each other, seemingly doing stretches and muscle training, but actually exchanging information and rehearsing the plan. Kayla told me the San of there, on the surface a high-end rehabilitation for secrets, his ex-girlfriend, former partner, an investor he had cheated. From that day on, Kayla and I began a secret plan. She came to my room every day for therapy, door closed, curtains drawn. We sat facing each other, seemingly doing stretches and muscle training, but actually exchanging information and rehearsing the plan. Kayla me the sanatorium, on the surface a high-end rehabilitation facility, was actually a place Victor used to hold people. 6 patients lived there, all people who had once known Victor's secrets. His ex-girlfriend, former partner, investor he had cheated. They were controlled with drugs, confined to their rooms, and given regular treatment. The so-called treatment was injecting them with sedatives to keep them quiet and obedient. "How do you know all this?" "I've worked here for 2 years, and I help them. They tell me the truth in bits and pieces. There's a man named Richard, Victor's former lawyer. Victor broke his hand, and they said it was a car accident when he was brought in. But Richard told me it was because he refused to sign money laundering documents for Victor. This is evidence Richard hid for a long time. He said if you can escape, give this to the federal prosecutor. He doesn't expect you to escape, but he doesn't want Victor to keep hurting people. But there's no way out now." She looked at me, and a light flashed in those eyes that matched mine. "We're switching identities. You become me, I become you." Switch identities. 4 simple words, but countless details were needed. Kayla was 2 inches taller and puffy from being bedwed me. My hair was blonde, hers brown. But we had one biggest similarity. Our eyes, and the shape of our brow bone. Give me time, and I can dye your hair my color and change your makeup to look like me. You also have to learn to copy my walk. I take smaller steps, I push therapy equipment sideways all day, so my right shoulder is lower than my left.
But she was serious.
She took out a small notebook filled with epidemic language, leaps downland planned. Even weather alternatives. If it rained, the side gate guard would doze off because the rain covered the alarm on the surveillance. "Were you ever a spy?" Kayla smiled for the first time, short but genuine. "Not a spy, a foster kid." Her smile faded. "When you run from one home to another, you learn a lot of things. This is different. This time I'm not running away, I'm going back with you. Blood is strange. It doesn't speak. I'll get you out of here. Not I want to help, not I'll try. I will." During preparation, we began small tasks. Every day, Kayla stole 1 sedative from the pharmacy and hid it in her locker. She said the drugs would be used on the day of the plan, spiked in the security guard's water to put them to sleep for 2 hours. She also took small, unnoticeable parts from therapy equipment, which could be modified into lock-picking tools. I didn't ask how she learned to pick locks. Some answers are better left unknown. I did something too, pretending my condition was getting worse. I started screaming during therapy, saying my ankle hurt too much. I refused to eat, hid food under my pillow, then secretly flushed it down the toilet. I talked less to the other nurses, lay in bed every day, staring blankly at the ceiling. When Victor visited, I curled up into a ball and twitched on purpose. He frowned and called for the doctor. The doctor increased my dosage, but they weren't sedatives. They were vitamin pills Kayla had swapped in advance. The real medicine was hidden by Kaylee. Victor stood by the bed, watching me have an attack, his face showing irritation instead of concern. I heard him say to the doctor,
"When will she get better? I need her to sign that transfer agreement. The investors are impatient."
Her condition is unstable. Give it more time. Victor slammed the door and left. The second the door closed, I opened one eye. Kira stood in the corner, watching me. Step 2 of the plan was complete, making Victor believe I had deteriorated beyond recovery. The more impatient he got, the less he would patrol the sanatorium. When he was gone, that's when we'd act. Next, Kayla began teaching me to copy her walk. Every afternoon, we locked ourselves in the treatment room. No cameras. Kayla said the camera in that room had broken long ago, and Victor never bothered fixing it because it was only used for therapy, no important patients. I walked in the center of the room over and over. Kayla corrected me every lap. Smaller steps, shoulders down, don't swing your right hand too much. Yes, like that. After days of practice, my legs shook. Not from tiredness, but because my ankle still hurt. Her technique was professional, but this time she pressed slowly, as if feeling every detail inside my bones. She said, "Your ankle can still be saved. Stop those drugs, do proper rehab, and you can dance on stage for 5 minutes. Not a full ballet, except." I said, 5 minutes is enough. She looked up at me, and in that look was something. Not sympathy, but respect. Kayla took out 2 wigs, a short brown one for me, a long blonde one for herself. She also prepared foundation, eyebrow pencils, and colored contact lenses. She didn't need to look exactly like me. Nurses didn't stare at patients' faces for long. They cared more about the numbers on the vital signs monitor, and Kayla could tamper with the monitor. She wrote key plan details on a slip of paper and tucked it in my pillow. The side gate guard has an 8-minute gap between shifts. We only have 8 minutes. Once you're out, use this phone to call this number. He's the federal prosecutor handling Victor's case. Give him the USB drive, and he'll take care of the rest. The day of the plan finally came. Everything was normal during the day. Victor didn't come, nurses did their rounds, delivered food, gave medicine, took temperatures. Kayla came for the final therapy session in the afternoon, seemingly stretching me, but actually making final confirmations. Kayla came for the final therapy session in the afternoon, seemingly stretching me, but actually making final confirmations. I adjusted the thermometer. Your temperature will read normal tonight, so the nurses won't enter your room. The security guards in the surveillance room drank the water I laced. It'll kick in soon. You only have a 1-hour window. That night, I lay in bed, the wig under the covers, makeup hidden in my pillowcase. Kayla waited in the next treatment room. Soon I heard the nurses changing shifts. Footsteps faded. The hallway went quiet. Kayla pushed the door open, holding her work bag. She put the short brown wig on me, used foundation to turn my pale skin wheat-colored, drew thick eyebrows, and put down contact lenses. I looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. Kayla put on the long, blotty wig, applied my usual lipstick, and put on the nightgown I'd laid out earlier. From now on, your therapist Kayla Mendez, and I'm patient Layla Romanova. With that, she lay on my bed, pulled the covers up to her chin, and closed her eyes. Her breathing became slow and steady, like a deeply sleeping patient. I stood in front of the bed and looked at her. Go. I took a deep breath, pushed the door open, and walked towards the end of the hallway. Every step matched the rhythm Kayla taught me, small steps. I passed the nurse's station. The on-duty nurse was looking down at her, glanced at me once, then went back to her screen. It wasn't unusual for a therapist to grab equipment from the treatment room in the middle of the night. I passed the surveillance room and saw through the window that the guard was lying on the desk, head on his arms, sound asleep. Kayla's drug had worked. I timed the side gate guard's shift perfectly. The previous guard had left, the next hadn't arrived. I stood at the side gate, palms sweating. It was a code lock. Kayla gave me the code, 1820, the year she was taken away at age 5. She'd never forgotten that number. The door opened. Cold, fresh air hit my face. For the first time in a long time, I smelled the outside world. Not disinfectant, not pills, dirt, leaves, and night wind. I walked past the sanitarium walls, followed the map Kayla drew me, crossed a small forest, and reached the road. A car waited by the road, doors unlocked, keys in the visor. It was a car Kayla rented in advance, using savings she'd put away for 2 years. It was a car Kayla rented in advance, using savings she'd put away for 2 years. I got in the driver's seat, started the engine, and watched the sanatorium lights grow smaller in the rearview mirror. I threw the wig away. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't sad, but because I wasn't freed. Escaping wasn't leaving the wall. It was putting Victor in prison. I drove to Manhattan and found the prosecutor's apartment. I rang his doorbell at 1 a.m. He opened the door in his pajamas and froze. I'm Layla Romanova. I have evidence of Victor Grev's money laundering and false imprisonment. May I come in? He looked at me for 2 seconds, then opened the door wider. I walked in, set the USB drive on his table, then collapsed on the sofa. Only then did I start shaking. Not from fear, but because I realized I'd left Kayla alone in that room. The prosecutor's name was Michael O'Brien, in his 40s, balding, with sharp eyes. He listened to my story, didn't doubt me, and immediately called his assistant and 2 federal agents. He copied the contents of the USB drive, and his face grew graver as he read.
Your sister's still inside? Is she in danger?
She said she can handle it. She said Victor only comes once every 3 days. The nurses will find Layla in her room tomorrow and not suspect anything. As long as Victor doesn't show up, she has time. Michael shook his head.
The plan's too risky, but we can't move now. No search warrant, not enough evidence. I need 48 hours.
I sat in the FBI office, staring at the clock on the wall. The second hand ticked, like a tiny hammer that never stopped, hitting my heart 1 beat at a time. I sent Kayla a text from the secure phone Michael gave me, the number she'd written down earlier. Only 3 words. Are you safe? The period at the end of the message indicates that she still had the energy to pay attention to Puntuant. I set the phone face down and exhaled deeply.
What did she say?
She's still there. Michael nodded it and stood up.
I'll apply for a search warrant first thing tomorrow. Rest here, don't go anywhere.
Daybreak came. Manhattan's morning light came through the blinds, drawing stripes on the floor. I hadn't slept, but I wasn't tired either. The adrenaline was still going. Micah left for the court at 9 o'clock sharp and returned soon after with a search warrant. His expression was serious.
There's a problem. Your sister called the prosecutor's office this morning. She said Victor showed up early. He arrived at the sanatorium at 7 this morning and he's still there.
She called? Is she okay?
She said she's still pretending to be sick. Victor's sitting by her bed saying he's waiting for her to wake up to sign a document. She can't move or speak. But she hid her phone under her pillow and put it on speaker, so we can hear the room.
Michael turned on a recording device, and Victor's voice came out.
When will she wake up? Give her another shot.
Yeah, I'll call you back.
Mr. Grev, her vital signs are normal, probably just natural sleep. She'll wake up soon.
I can't wait. She has to sign today.
I'm coming with you.
You're a witness, not an operative.
I know. But I'm waiting for her at the door. She's my sister.
Let's go.
The federal agent's convoy arrived at the sanitarium quickly. I sat in the last car, wearing a bulletproof vest in the back seat. The car stopped outside the walls. No sirens, no flashing lights. Michael's orders: secure the surveillance room and side gate first, then enter the main building. The agents split into 3 teams and silently infiltrated every entrance. I walked behind Michael into the main building, where the quiet was gone. I walked down the hallway, past the nurses' station, past the surveillance room where the guards were now in custody. I headed for my room, or rather, the room where Kayla was lying. The door was open. I saw Victor standing by the bed, one hand squeezing Kayla's jaw, forcing her mouth open.
A nurse was preparing a syringe. Michael's voice came from behind Victor. Victor, you're under arrest. Charges include money laundering, false imprisonment, and assault with controlled substances.
Victor turned around, saw Michael and me behind him. His eyes widened. He looked at me, then at Kayla on the bed wearing the blonde wig. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Kira took off her wig, revealing her short brown hair. She looked at Victor and said one word. Surprise. Victor was pinned to the ground, hands cuffed behind his back. As he was taken away, he looked back at me. That look held shock, anger, confusion. But the coldest part was that there was no regret. He didn't think he'd done anything wrong. He just thought he hadn't been careful enough. Kayla got out of bed and walked in front of me. We stood 2 steps apart, neither reaching for a hug, but a tiny, almost invisible curve appeared at the corner of her mouth. I'm glad you're okay. I knew you'd come. The sanatorium was shut down. Victor's money laundering case dragged in 37 related accounts and 12 accomplices. The federal prosecutor called it the most complete evidence chain he'd ever worked on. One key piece was the document Richard had hidden on the USB drive. When Richard was rescued, his legs were severely atrophied and he needed a wheelchair. We met the day he was sent to the hospital. He took my hand and said one sentence.
You did what none of us could.
It wasn't me. It was Kayla. Richard looked at Kayla standing at the end of the hallway and said,
You're so alike.
In what way?
Neither of you gave up.
In the days that followed, I cooperated with the investigation and gave a full testimony. Victor's lawyer tried to paint me as a dancer with mental problems, but my mental state recovered quickly after stopping the drugs, and a later psychological report stated I was fully competent to testify. Kayla also submitted all her medication logs and surveillance records. She'd written those logs every night for 2 years, recording what she observed while treating each patient. drug reactions, mental state changes, Victor's visit frequency, even what time each window in the sanatorium opened and closed. What did you write all this for? I don't know. I just thought it might be useful one day. She looked at me and added, I never thought it'd be for my sister. That was the first time she called me sister. I didn't cry, but my nose sting. Victor was eventually permanently stripped of his financial license. His company was shut down and liquidated. All assets seized to compensate victims. He was permanently blacklisted by the industry and his so-called business empire collapsed overnight. Former partners cut ties. He became a pariah in New York social circles and eventually withdrew from all public life. On sentencing day, Kayla sat next to me. When the judge finished reading the verdict, she didn't clap, she just took off her glasses and wiped them. He'll never hurt anyone again. That's his problem, not ours. She looked at me, then smiled. This time, not a short, faint smile, but a full one, eyes crinkling. Layla, you sound just like her. After the Victor case, Kayla and I took over our mother's dance studio. It was in an old neighborhood in Brooklyn. Small, but once the best ballet school in the area. After our mother died, it was rented to a yoga studio, which later closed, leaving the space empty. Kayla used all her savings from years of work, and I used a small part of the inheritance my father left me. And we put together the down payment on the space. The first time we walked in, the floor was covered in dust, half the mirror was broken, and the bar was rusted. But the space itself was beautiful. 4-meter ceilings, old but solid wood floors, and great southern exposure. I stood in the center of the room, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. I could smell Mother. Not perfume, but wood, chalk, and sweat. I can feel her too. She's here, always has been. We spent a long time renovating. I designed the layout of the dance studio. Kaylee hired the construction crew and negotiated prices.
Prima and I wear a bank here.
Her bargaining skills amazed me. She talked a lock lender down from $300 to $120 and got a spare key for free.
How you did it?
The first thing foster care taught me was not to be a sucker. I laughed. I used to think foster care was her scar, but now I saw she'd turn those scars into tools. On opening day, no ribbon cutting, no media, just the two of us. Kayla bought 2 cups of coffee, and we stood at the door looking at the sign, Romanova Dance Studio. We should add your name. No, this is her name, and yours. I'm just Mendez. Your last name is Romanova. It always has been. No one ever told you? Tears fell down Kayla's face. She didn't wipe them, just stood there and let them flow. It was the first time I'd seen her cry. At first, we had 6 students, 4 kids, 2 adults. The kids were from the neighborhood. There are 2 adult girls who want to learn ballroom dancing. Not many classes, but I taught carefully. My ankle hadn't fully recovered, so I couldn't demonstrate, but I could explain every detail clearly in words. Kayla handled administration and finance, keeping strict accounts. Every expense recorded, even parking fees. Kayla, you're such a penny puncher. We only have enough money to last 3 months. Figure it out yourself. I did the math. She was right. Later, the number of students grew to 15. Money started to be enough. I hired a part-time piano accompaniator, an elderly woman who'd played for ballet classes for years. Her fingers weren't as agile as before, but her sense of rhythm was deeper than any accompanist I'd met. I know my mom. Your mom's really strict, but she never gave up on any student, even if they had no talent at all. I didn't inherit her strictness. I inherited her stubbornness. You're as stubborn as a mule. Thanks. At the end of the first semester, we held a year-end recital. There were 15 of us, and everyone got up on stage to do a performance piece. The little one was 5 years old, dressed in a pink tutu. She spun round and round on stage, nearly dizzying herself out. The audience laughed, and I couldn't help laughing too. The oldest was 72, dancing a waltz, elegant as a flower slowly blooming. After the show, Kayla cleaned up backstage. I walked in and saw her wiping a mirror dead. We had cleaned it many times, but water stains still lingered on the edges. She wiped it carefully, like cleaning a relic. In the studio's second year, an unexpected visitor arrived. Richard, the lawyer whose hand Victor had broken. He arrived in a wheelchair, pushed by his wife. After a year of therapy, his legs could stand but still walked unwarbly.
My wife says I owe her a dance. I couldn't dance with her at our wedding because my hand was in a cast.
He smiled shyly. I looked at his wife, a white-haired woman with light in her eyes.
Okay. But promise me you won't quit halfway.
I got through what I did. I'm not afraid of dancing.
Richard's dance class was every Wednesday afternoon. Kayla did his warm-ups and stretches. I taught him basic steps. His right hand was still not very flexible, and he couldn't hold his wife's hand. His wife was patient, practicing with him again and again. After 3 months, they danced an entire waltz, perfectly in the center of the studio. When the music ended, Richard cried.
I waited 40 years for this.
I watched, eyes wet. Kayla handed me a tissue and said, "Cry if you want. No rental fee today."
Are you an accountant or a therapist?
I'm your sister. So the books don't have to balance. That night, Kayla wrote in her ledger, Mr. and Mrs. Richard, class fees, paid in full, but their smiles are priceless. I laughed. She nitpicked every expense, but when it came to moments like this, she made the worst deal. Later, my ankle finally recovered. The doctor said I could try dancing for 5 minutes. I chose the Black Swan variation from Swan Lake, not because I could do 32 fouettes, but because it was Mother's favorite music. I stood in the center of the studio. Kayla started the music. The elderly accompanier sat nearby, fingers on the keys. I said,
Let's begin.
First spin, my ankle didn't hurt. Second, a little tight. Third, I found my center. Fourth, fifth, I stopped at the end of the 8th spin. Not because I couldn't go on, but because tears blurred my vision. Kayla stood in the corner with a towel, not coming over. She just watched me. I wiped my tears and said, again. This time I made it to 12 spins. When I stopped, I heard applause. Not Kayla's, from students and parents at the door. They didn't know I'd once been in a wheelchair, but they saw a woman dancing. That was enough. That night, I took Kayla to dinner, my first time treating her to something other than takeout. We sat in an Italian bistro, drinking red wine and eating pasta. Kayla blushed after 2 glasses and started talking more. She said when she was little, all she wanted was a home, one she didn't have to move from. She never dared imagine that home would be a dance studio.
You didn't dare dream it, so I dreamed it for you. Now it's real.
Kayla made a budget, calculated for 2 days, and finally told me,
We can rent, but we need more adult classes. Kids' tuition alone won't cover it. Okay.
The studio gradually expanded. We rented the space next door, knocked down the wall, and added a large classroom. We added yoga, Pilates, and adult beginner ballet. Kayla even took a marketing course and started social media promotion. Her short videos went viral. A woman in a therapist's coat, stretching expressionlessly in front of a mirror, caption, "Therapists don't smile, but your muscles will." Views were huge. People started recognizing me, not on stage, but online. One comment read, "Aren't you Layla from the New York Ballet? Why are you teaching here?" I replied, "Because this is my home." No more explanation needed. One day, a young dancer came to the studio. Early 20s, ankle wrapped in bandages, holding a cane. She said she was a new member of the New York Ballet, injured in rehearsal. Doctor said it might take 6 months to recover.
I saw your video online. I know you had a worse injury. I want to know how you got back on your feet. I didn't stand up alone. I had a therapist. She's also my sister.
Another one? The dancer laughed, picked up her CT scan. Torn ligament, same injury as my sister. I can get you back to dancing. Not in 6 months. Around that time, Kayla and I made a decision. We renovated Mother's old office into a wellness consultation room. On the wall hung not skeleton models, but photos of us as kids. Me on stage in a ballet tutu, her in old foster home clothes on a playground. The 2 photos hung side by side, with a portrait of our young mother in between. Kayla slowed down every time she passed the portrait, but I never saw her stop. She said she didn't need to, because she'd already spoken to Mother in her heart. One night after classes, only the 2 of us were left. Kayla sat in the consultation room, organized student files. I walked in and set a cup of tea on her desk. "You danced well today."
Since when do you watch dancing?
"Since the first day you danced Swan Lake here. You cried that day, but your feet never stopped. When I was 12, I saw you dancing on TV in foster care. It was a ballet competition. You danced the Rosado from Sleeping Ardle. Your ankles were so strong and your skirt bloomed like a flower when you spun. I thought if I can't stand on stage, I'll help people who can." She looked down and continued organizing the files. Later, I studied rehabilitation. Then I saw the news. Principal dancer of New York Ballet injured and hospitalized. I found out where you were, Victor's sanatorium. I applied for the job. I stood there, the tea in my hand cold. I set down the cup, walked over, and hugged her from behind. She didn't move, but her shoulders trembled slightly. "You don't need to help people who can stand on stage. You've already helped me stand." "I know, so I have no regrets." Victor's case went to appeal. He appealed, claiming the evidence in Sin's chain was incomplete. Prosecutor Michael called me and asked if I was willing to testify again. I said yes. Kayla said she'd go too.
In court, Victor was much thinner and his hair was white. His lawyer asked if he knew me, and he said yes, my ex-girlfriend.
Did you ever force her to take drugs?
No. She was injured, and I helped her find a hospital.
I stood up, looked into his eyes, and stated all the evidence word for word. My voice was steadier than before, because I was no longer the victim who escaped the sanatorium. I was someone who helped others escape. Kayla also took the witness stand. She wore her therapist's coat, expressionless.
Menders, did you document Victor Gray's illegal activities during your employment at the sanitarium?
Yes. I recorded every patient's drug reaction, every detail of false imprisonment, every forged medical record.
She took out the logbook and flipped through it in court. Victor's lawyer tried to question her professionalism.
You're not a doctor. How can you judge over medication?
I'm not a doctor. I'm a therapist.
But I have something more useful than a medical degree. I watched and I recorded. How many pills does a normal person need to sleep 20 hours a day? You tell me. The court went silent. The judge banged his gavel. Victor's appeal was denied. The original sentence stood. When we walked out of the courthouse, the sun was bright. Kayla walked ahead. I followed. She suddenly stopped, turned, and held out her hand. I held it. Her hand was warm, with callies on her palm from gripping therapy equipment while training me. We walked for a while without speaking. Passers-by thought we were a couple. In fact, we were something deeper. We came from the same womb and only held hands 25 years late. The studio's student count passed 100. We hired 2 full-time teachers, one for ballet and one for contemporary. Kayla stopped teaching therapy classes. She handed over the rehabilitation classes to one of her students, a young woman who graduated from Columbia University. She was quiet, had a steady hand, and was just like she had been when she was young.
What are you going to do now?
I'm the boss. I manage the money.
You've always managed the money.
Before it was part-time. Now it's official. I want to turn the studio into a chain. We really opened a second location on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. It was smaller than the Brooklyn original, but rent was 3 times higher. Kayla calculated back and forth and decided we could just manage. On opening day, many old students came. Richard and his wife came too. Richard could walk without a cane now. He stood at the door, looked at the new studio, and said,
Romanova sisters, you're doing something big. You're telling everyone that getting hurt isn't the end. It's another starting line.
Sounds nice. Rent is due at the end of the month. You a sponsor?
Richard laughed and wrote a check. Richard laughed and wrote a check. Kayla put the check away, expression unchanged. But that night, she drank an extra glass of red wine. She got drunk, leaned on the sofa and said,
Sis,
you know why I care so much about money?
why?
I'm scared of being poor again. But I don't want you to live like that either. I've been poor. After Dad died, I lived on a tight budget for years. But you didn't turn bad because of money. You didn't either. I didn't turn bad. I turned into an accountant. Later, a ballet school closed down, founded by an elderly woman who'd run it for 40 years but couldn't keep going. She advertised in the newspaper, selling all ballet equipment, barras, mirrors, floors, speakers, leotards. Kayla and I went to take a look. The school was in Queens, twice as big as our old studio, old decor but good quality facilities. I stood in the empty classroom and a thought flashed through my mind. Kayla stood beside me and said, "What are you thinking?
Can we take it over?
Open a third one? I don't know.
I do.
Let's go home and crunch the numbers." That night, Kayla calculated for a long time. She wrote numbers on a piece of paper, crossing off and rereading. I sat beside her, afraid to speak. Late at night, she put down her pen and said,
We can, but we have to take a loan. Are you scared? Yes. But I'm more scared not to do it.
We took the loan and took over the space. The old lady cried when she handed us the keys. She said she hated to let it go, but her health wouldn't let her continue.
You can come anytime. Free.
Free classes?
Free tea.
The old lady laughed.
Free classes.
One free class. More costs money. This woman, always accounting. But every account she kept had heart. The first week the new studio opened, the old lady really came. She didn't take class, just sat on a chair in the corner of the classroom watching the kids practice. She watched and cried. Kayla walked over, poured her a cup of tea, and said nothing. Old lady took a sip and said,
Your mother would be very happy.
Kayla's hand paused.
My mother? Mrs. Romanova?
Yes, she used to run a studio nearby about this size. She got sick and closed it. She told me, My daughters will come back. She knew she had 2 daughters.
She's right. We're all back.
That night, after returning home, Kayla didn't do her books as usual. She sat on the balcony, looking at Manhattan's skyline, holding a cup of tea. I walked over and sat beside her. Did what the old lady said make you miss her? I always thought she only had you and left me, but she said daughters. She knew I existed. She was waiting for me. She was always waiting for you. She just didn't live to see it. Board meeting tomorrow. I should sleep. She went into the room and closed the door. I heard very soft crying behind the door. I didn't knock. Some tears need to be shed alone. The next morning, Kayla looked as usual, hair neatly combed, clothes neatly pressed. She greeted students at the door, speaking to everyone. No one knew she'd cried the night before, but when she walked into the office, I saw her pause in front of Mother's portrait and touch the frame with her finger. She'd never done that before. I thought, she's finally made peace with herself. That winter, we decided to hang photos of Mother in her youth and old newspaper clippings of her first studio beside them. The clippings were given to us by the old lady, found after digging through old boxes for days. The headline read, Natalia Romanova, a mother and her dance dream. The clippings were given to us by the old lady, found after digging through old boxes for days. Every morning when she passed by, she'd glance at them. Later, Kayla and I appeared on a TV show, not a talent show, a documentary. A director found us, wanting to film a story about sisters repairing broken lives. I don't like cameras.
I don't either. But this story deserves to be seen.
The director filmed us for a long time, from the old Brooklyn studio to the new Manhattan one, from early morning opening to late closing.
He filmed me teaching, Kayla doing books, us eating lunch together, even arguing in the hallway. Even arguing in the hallway over a mysterious equipment repair fee. I said the machine still worked. Replacing it was a waste. We argued. Then Kayla gave in.
You argue like a married couple, not sisters.
Because we're business partners. Because we're family.
After the documentary aired, the response was huge. Many people left comments saying they were moved by our story. One young girl wrote, I was also raised in foster care. I always thought I didn't deserve family love. Seeing you, I think maybe I could. When Kayla saw this comment, she was eating lunch. She put down her chopsticks, stared at the screen for a long time, then replied, You can. The first step is believing you deserve it. The girl later came to our studio, 19 years old, wanting to learn to dance but never had. Kayla started her in the beginner's class. She learned slowly but carefully. A year later, she could perform a 1-minute solo independently. When the music ended, she looked at the audience. I sat there clapping. Kayla stood at the door, expressionless but clapping nonstop. The girl ran to Kayla and cried. Kayla stiffened, then patted her back twice. Not perfunctory patting, that said, I understand you. Later, I received an invitation. The New York Ballet wanted me to perform at a charity gala. Not a group dance, not a 5-minute excerpt, a full solo, The Dying Swan. Only 4 minutes long, but extremely demanding for a dancer. But demanded conveying all the emotion of a die-on in 4 minutes. Now, I'm ready. I danced it before my injury. My technique was better then, but my emotion was not as deep. My ankle wasn't as flexible now, but I knew what dying meant. I had died once. In Victor's sanatorium, his drugs made me sleep 20 hours a day. I was alive, but I was dying. Then I escaped and was reborn. I accepted. Kayla did my rehabilitation. When I screamed in pain, she said expressionlessly, 3 more sets. I suddenly remembered our first meeting. Back then, she was my therapist, I was her patient. Our relationship began with those 3 words. On performance night, Lincoln Center's lights were blinding. I waited backstage, heart racing. Kayla stood beside me, handed me a pair of point shoes. She taped my feet, checked the ribbons. I stepped onto the stage. Music made. My ankle was tight, but I didn't stop. My body remembered every move, but my heart beat to a new rhythm. 4 minutes, not long, not short. When the final move ended, the swan bowed its head, wings cold, body slowly falling. The whole theater went quiet. Then applause erupted. I lay on the stage, looking at the ceiling lights, tears sliding into my hair. I smiled.